Greetings fellow Whovians and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. With the previous season of Doctor Who, aka Doctor Who Flux, being a 6-chapter long story arc and in part celebration of the 1-year anniversary of this YouTube channel, I decided to look back at the previous time there was a season long story arc, which was season 23 of classic Doctor Who, Trial of a Time Lord, which was originally broadcast on BBC One between September and December of 1986. This video will concentrate on the first 4 parts of this story arc entitled The Mysterious Planet. But before I get into the review proper, I just wanted to give a bit of a backstory of how Trial of a Time Lord came about. At the end of season 22 back in 1984, the higher-ups at the BBC decided that they just didn't want to make any more Doctor Who. There was just no love for the show from the higher-ups, just citing that it was too violent, the ratings weren't doing as well, and just bringing every excuse under the sun. But they didn't realise there was going to be quite a bit of a backlash from the fans and just from the public on how much of a national institution Doctor Who was. So after the protests by the fans and general public alike, plus the very questionable novelty record that came out, the BBC hurriedly changed their mind and said that they were putting the show on hiatus for 18 months and it will be coming back. So everyone in the production of Doctor Who was very happy with that, but there was a couple of problems. One being that it's going to be reduced from 45 minutes to 25-minute episodes. So all the pre-productions that would have been season 23, which include the return of the Celestial Toymaker, the Autons, the Ice Warriors, they were all going to be scrapped. Thankfully, those stories were novelised back in the 90s. The other problem was it is only coming back for 14 episodes. So the idea was born to do a season-long story arc, very similar to the Key to Time season that we saw in the 70s. But this time it was a little bit of art imitating life, because with the show being on trial, they decided to put the Doctor on trial, and that's how Trial of a Time Lord came about. Just in case you don't know the plot, the 6th Doctor in the TARDIS has been forced to arrive at a remote space station, summoned by members of the High Council of Time Lords. The Doctor is accused of meddling in the affairs of other races and planets. Prosecuting is the Valeyard, who uses the Matrix as evidence to show the jury one of the Doctor's past adventures, where he and companion Peri arrive on the mysterious planet known as Ravelox. First off, I want to say how gorgeous the opening sequence was for this adventure, for this first episode, as we get the model shot of the space station, the special effects with the TARDIS being beamed down. It just looks fantastic, and it's one of my favourite special effects shots from classic Doctor Who. I watched this sequence quite a few times, over and over again, on YouTube or just quickly on Blu-ray, because it just looks amazing. And to be honest, for an effect that's probably about 35 or just over 35 years old, I think it holds up pretty well and could easily be slotted into modern Doctor Who in terms of effects. This season also sees a new version of the theme music by Dominic Lynn, who also does the incidental music for the first 4 parts for this 14-episode epic. And I quite like it. It's certainly grown on me over time, especially with the sort of just variation in the themes and like the howling effects. I just like it, and it does quite blend well with the opening title sequence for Colin Baker's Doctor. And I think probably the reason why I like this music a lot more now is it's being used for Big Finish audios when they do the individual Doctors intros. So it's not like now that Colin Baker has to share sort of Tom Baker's and Peter Davison's theme arrangement, even though that is still my favourite, Peter Howell's. But back to this and the incidental scoring, coupled with the special effects that we've seen so far, and the fact that it's now outside broadcasting for outdoor shots instead of 16mm film, it just gives the presentation of Doctor Who for this season just that extra notch, and just giving that extra quality in terms of production. I was always a big favour of outside broadcasting rather than 16mm film, because it just sometimes looks a bit jarring when it goes back to studio. So the two film just kind of just marries up a bit better with outside broadcasting and studio cameras. In terms of the characters, it's nice to see the Sixth Doctor and Perry sort of getting on a bit more. It just shows that evolution of their friendship, where in the previous season there was a bit more sort of bickering and just an unstable relationship. So to see them sort of grown with each other and become a bit more, just showing that fondness. It's just more when they do the little sort of bickering quips. It's more in jest rather than seriousness. It's just a nice thing to see. In terms of guest characters, well, the highlight has to be Tony Selby as Savalon Glitz, with his partner in crime, Dibber, played by Glenn Murphy, who you might recognise from London's Burning if you watched that back in the 90s like I did. And yeah, it was a great character, and so sad that Tony sadly passed away a few months ago. It was definitely one of those recurring characters that should have come back more often in Doctor Who, especially in Big Finish audios. We do get to see him in Dragonfire. But yeah, I just like the characterization of Savalon Glitz. He's just a fun character to play and fun to see on screen. In all, we do have a strong cast of guest stars and very famous celebrities really involved in Doctor Who. So it just shows that I know John Nathan Turner was the one that kind of pulled the strings in terms of stunt casting, which he has definitely been criticised for in the past. But it shows how much of a pull Doctor Who still has, even though the higher ups at the BBC think otherwise. So we do have Joan Sim, who, to counter argue with this, is definitely stunt casting not quite fitting in. Even though she does do a good job here, it's probably not the most strongest of characters. So, I think Joan did the best that she got with the material given. But the other casting that we have Linda Bellingham as the Inquisitor throughout this trial, and Michael Jaston, who is the Valeyard, the prosecutor. I'll speak about him a little bit later on. But also we have Tom Jadbourne, who was also in City of Death. So it was great to see him back as this new character, Murdine. I'll just mention the trial scenes at this point. So there's some really good interplay between Colin Baker and Michael Jaston. Really enjoyed Michael Jaston as the Valeyard in this 14 episode epic. And his characterization just gets better and better as the season just carries on, as the story continues. Yeah, like I said, really good interplay between the two, and Colin Baker just bounces off Michael Jaston and vice versa really well. The only problem, really, which I think kind of sees it more maybe in this story rather than the other two stories, is or at least the first 4 episodes, is the trial scenes just kind of stop and start the story, and it's a little bit sort of jarring. And it just kind of just messes with the pacing of this story altogether. It does get better as the story goes on, as chapters continue. And like I said, the interplay between the Valeyard and the Doctor really sort of comes into its own in the next few episodes. But in this one, it's just to kind of get the nitty gritty out of the way, and the sort of the Doctor giving the nicknames of like the scrapyard, the rail yard, and all that sort of silliness. Just kind of just messes with the pacing of this story as a whole. This story with the Doctor and Perry traveling to Ravolox and dealing with the heroes and the villains is a little bit lightweight. This was written by Robert Holmes, this 4 parts of the Trial of the Time Lord season, who was sadly suffering from ill health, which clearly showed really in the style of writing. It's certainly not his best, certainly not one of his classics. But to be fair, what he does produce is still, it's a fine piece of work, but just definitely lightweight in material. With like the L3 robots. I mean, the robot is huge, and it's just very. I mean, I like the design. I do like the design of it and the voice of the L3 robot. But just really impractical. But maybe that was kind of the point of the story, really, with the two, with the humanoid sort of fearing the immortal one being this broken robot that's that's just waiting for orders and just carrying out the commands from humans from a previous existence. So, bit of irony there. But the way Robert Holmes writes these additional characters certainly makes up for any shortcomings that this story has as a whole. So for that reason, I'm going to give the first 4 episodes of Trial of a Time Lord, The Mysterious Planet, a TARDIS rating of 6.5 out of 10. Now, if I took the trial scenes away and just judging this as a 4-part adventure standalone, I probably would have given it a 5 out of 10. Like I said, it's not Robert Holmes's best work. It is very lightweight, but there are certainly mitigating circumstances as to why. But with the extra special effects, with the opening scenes with the trial, the music, the incidental scoring, and plus the interplay between the Doctor and the Valiard, and just this general idea of the Doctor being on trial, just kind of makes up the extra 1.5 mark. So, yep, in total, it's a 6.5 out of 10 for me. It's a good start, not the strongest start, but it's certainly worth a watch. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts to the first 4 parts of Trial of a Time Lord, The Mysterious Planet, and also what's your thoughts on this version of the Doctor Who theme. Do you like it? Is it one of your favourites, or is it one of your least favourites? Next time on Timey Wimey Review, I will be reviewing the next 4 parts to Trial of a Time Lord, entitled Mind Warp. Until then, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and again, thanks for everyone's support and love over the past year for the first anniversary of the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. Thanks for those who have subscribed already, but if you haven't, please like, share and subscribe. But until then, as a good doctor once said, I am Lord President of Gallifrey. You can't put me on trial.